Shalom, brothers and sisters. Shalom, Shabbat Sas, Ma Shalom Kem. Ani Mekwawe, Atem Mardigishim Tobim, Akshal, Meata, Wa'ad Olam, Ani Mekwawe, Atem Mardigishim, Wa'atem Targishu, Tob Me'od. What am I saying, brothers and sisters? And giving honor and praise unto the Most High, the Creator, the Maker of heaven and earth. Sabbath of peace, Shabbat Shalom, happy Sabbath. Shabbat Sas. Ani Mekwawe, I hope you all are well. Atem Tobim. Wa Atem Mardigishim Tobim. And you are feeling good. Wa Atem Targishu Tob. And you all will feel good. Brothers and sisters, this is a presentation called A True Friend, Time to Make Decisions, Part 2. This has been postponed for some time, but we want to sit there, brothers and sisters, and get into this particular matter, all right, for edification purposes. This is on the channel, More Yeshaya Torah Lessons, More Yeshaya History Lessons, and the Facebook page or the Facebook profile, Yeshaya Author Danite. We are going to be reading in Ecclesiasticus chapter 6 in the Apocrypha. We're going to pick up, land back, not piggyback, because we don't do pigs in Israel. Brothers and sisters, where we left off at in the past. This is no disrespect intended to anyone's understanding. Nonetheless, when we say land back, that is no offense intended to anyone, brother, sister, elder, who is a vegetarian or a vegan. Nonetheless, we want to point out, family, some things in the house of Israel, if we will. And that is, if I can be heard, well, and people in good spirits, please type in the number 4. And that is, family, this. There is health food, and then there is food. Shabbat Shalom, my lady Sarai. There is, brothers and sisters, good bacteria and bad bacteria. When you look at the culture of the house of Israel and you see what Ezekiel the prophet was told to eat, correct me if I'm wrong, in Ezekiel, I believe, chapter 3, what is today referred to as Ezekiel bread. When you read about what the children of Israel ate, brothers and sisters, in the time of Daniel the prophet, namely Daniel and his friends, when they chose to eat the pulse or the vegetables and not, quote, the king's meat, which we understand to be pork, brothers and sisters. When, brothers and sisters, we get into this kind of subject, and when we, brothers and sisters, get into this kind of matter, we want to point out, if we will, for edification purposes, time and place for everything. There is a time to gather, and it's time to cast that which was gathered. It's a time to embrace, and it's a time to refrain from embracing. There is a time to gather, and there's a time to cast away. There's a time to find and a time to lose. There's a time to live and a time to die. There's a time to live and die and heal, as we all read, brothers and sisters, in Ecclesiastes in the Bible, chapter 3. We're going to be reading about a true friend in the book of the Apocrypha, brothers and sisters. So without any further ado, let us, if we will, pull up the PowerPoint, family. Thank you for that. And we asking you all to comment, like, share, and subscribe, hoping and praying, again, that everybody is well and will be better. So let us go into the slideshow. Start from here in this particular case, if we will, family. Giving honor to the Most High. We will be reading in Ecclesiasticus 6 in the Apocrypha. This is regarding friends. We hope you all are well and will be better. We ask you to subscribe to the channel, comment, like, and share. let us, brothers and sisters, continue in this particular matter. Thank you for that. Instead of a friend, become not an enemy, for thereby thou shalt inherit an ill name, shame, and reproach. Even so shall a sinner that hath a double tongue. Extol not thyself in the counsel of thine own heart, that thy soul be not torn in pieces as a bull straying alone. Thou shalt eat up thy leaves and lose thy fruit, and leave thyself as a dry tree. A wicked soul shall destroy him that hath it, and shall make him to be laughed to scorn of his friends, of his enemies. Totally different. Let me read verse 4 again. A wicked soul shall destroy him that hath it, and shall make him to be laughed to scorn of his enemies. Sweet language will multiply friends, and a fair-speaking tongue will increase kind greetings. So what do we mean in going over this particular portion again in verse 5, where it says what? Sweet language will multiply friends. So what is the point in being bitter? What is the point, brothers and sisters, in being sorrowful? What is the point, brothers and sisters, in saying everything ain't all right because we know everything is not all right, but what's the point of focusing and magnifying it more than it needs to be? Things that are good, things that are positive, things that are upright needs to be extolled, needs to be bigged up, brothers and sisters, needs to be pointed out, brothers and sisters, for reference purposes. It goes on to say, be in peace with many, nevertheless have but one counselor of 1,000. If thou wouldest get a friend, prove him first, and be not hasty to credit him. For some man is a friend for his own occasion, and will not abide in the day of thy trouble. You know how they say you can truly tell who your friends are because they're there for you, do what you call thick and thin. When you are, as it says, just showing waxed fat and cake, you got thick. That's when they was like, yeah, I'm your friend to the end kind of thing. Then when things begin to happen that cause you to not be as thick, brothers and sisters, then you will see who your true friends are. That's when you know who your true, as the saying goes, your peoples are. Because a true friend doesn't run away in a time of trouble. They do things such as make himself or herself available, so that way he or she can be a comfort to him or her. Those are things, brothers and sisters, that we care to point out for reference purposes. How to be a friend to somebody. Brothers and sisters, did you know that though Israel as a nation and the Ammonites as a nation had problems, do you know that David at one point stated he wanted to show kindness to the son of the king of Ammon because his father helped him when David had problems? What does that tell you, brothers and sisters, about your friends? What does that tell you, brothers and sisters, about how to be a friend to your brother or your sister is important. So instead of being an enemy, become a friend. Let us continue, if we will, family. Ecclesiasticus chapter 6, verse 10. Again, some friend is a companion at the table. It will not continue in the day of thy affliction. So everybody that sits at your table is not per se the long-term and forever kind of friend. Because when things change and things ain't able to say, quote, popping off and being as it was, if you will, you have it to where, brothers and sisters, you begin to see that not everyone was that friend as you thought. And these are things, brothers and sisters, that we want to point out, left on record from our ancestors, as we see here in the Apocrypha. We do not, brothers and sisters, want to go into a seance. We don't want to do what they call scathing, if I'm not misquoting it, by making the mirror black and then you're calling on ancestors, if you will. This is why a brother and sister sit there and speak about get your book out, because your books are intended to live longer than you, just as much as the writings in Ecclesiasticus outlive Sirach himself. But when you don't have that preservation and you sit up there relying on, I'm going to call on the ancestors kind of thing, the ancestors are calling out, if not being funny, if anything to you, not you calling out to them. Stop right there, if you will. We're going to show why a brother states what he states. All right? If I may, I want to go into the scriptures, if we will. Cool? Cool? We are in Proverbs, the 8th chapter. And let's see what it says, brothers and sisters, for reference purposes. It says this: doth not wisdom call, and understanding put forth her voice? So, wisdom does call. This is wisdom that the ancients knew. So, what I'm portraying and conveying is that we don't need to sit there and go and call on the ancestors, if you will, because the ancestors left records that we see in the scriptures calling out to us. You understand? If anybody got any questions or comments concerning what we're talking about in this particular case, please let it be known. Thank you. Proverbs 8 verse 1. Doth not wisdom call, and understanding put forth her voice? She stands at the top of high places, by the way where the places of the paths. She crieth at the gates, at the entry of the city, at the coming in at the doors. Unto you, O men, I call, and my voice is to the sons of men. So now, when we start talking about ancestor worship that some do, and calling on, quote, the ancestors, and our records as Israelites, the things that our ancestors left call out to us. That's why it says to the sons of men, to the children, take heed to what I'm saying. So no, you don't have to sit there and get your potion or portion and go in the room and make it dark and make sure you say somebody's name X amount of times and the horseshoe is over the door and making sure everybody can sit there and walk backwards and around you. We ain't got to do all that. Take heed to what was left in the past as it calls to you, so you won't have to sit there and feel, maybe I got to call to them. They're calling out and telling you certain things. The brother, Rob, I didn't tell him I was going to do this. He runs Goshen. He made a post that said, do you ever know about ancestors or peoples in your family that are deceased that call to you or speak to you, say in a dream? And before I started this live, I answered on it and said, yes, Imi. What does Imi mean? Imi in Hebrew means what? Anybody? Who cares to type it into the chat? Shalom, my lady Sarah. Shalom, my brother, Yirmiyahu. Does anybody care to type in the chat, what does Imi mean? If we will. Mom. Yes. Aim means mother. Ima, more so mom or mami. But Imi means my mother. So I answered by stating that, yeah, my mother next month on this calendar will make 20 years of her not being in this earth. I've known her for 24 years. And in those 24 years, right? One second, family. Thank you for that. Sorry about that, fam. We're going to pull the live back up and start from here. Right? Thank you for that, family. What was stated, brothers and sisters, and that is this. I've known her for, may she rest in peace, for 24 years of my life. And a lot of it's transpired, not getting too personal, since the past 20 years of her resting in peace and so forth in my life. Ups, downs, left and rights, and so forth and so on. But it's about taking that wisdom that was there. It's about accepting that wisdom that was there and progressing in that particular matter. Brothers and sisters, and I'll use my scriptures in this. We're going to be reading with the timing allotted, right? In the book of Jeremiah, chapter 3, brothers and sisters. And let's see what it says in this particular case. We are in Jeremiah chapter 3, verse 1. And it says this. They say, if a man put away his wife and she go from him and become another man's, shall he return unto her again? Shall not that land be greatly polluted? But thou hast played the harlot with many lovers, yet return again to me, says Yah. So what's being stated is that Israel here, brothers and sisters, is being portrayed as the wife that went astray, the wife that was married, was given a bill of divorcement, and got married again. Her first husband cannot return unto her. Brothers and sisters, that's why it says, will that land be greatly defiled? But Israel, being a wife for the Most High, when you read Isaiah 54, went with another man, another ideology, another God, and then returned back to the Most High. How do you return back to the Most High after that? You already know the defilement is there. So now when you go in Ezekiel chapter 36, and the Most High says about sprinkling the waters of purification, for those who saw the latest Exorcist movie, that is what the guy was talking about. Ezekiel. Anytime they cited the Tanakh or the said Old Testament, be it that movie, and not to spoil it for some, because I'm a movie nut, when you sit there and watch that The Night with the Devil thing that recently came out, you start quoting that new book, and he turned your head in that movie just like he turned the head in the movie The Exorcist. It is the said Old Testament that makes them flee. Why you think they give you in prison the New Testament? No disrespect intended to brothers and sisters who might believe in that understanding. Why do you think they call the word of the Most High the Old Testament? And then Rome comes to power. There's a reason for that, brothers and sisters. So what do we want to point out for reference purposes, if we will? In Jeremiah chapter 3, brothers and sisters, we're going to go and read verse 9 and then get into the presentation. Thank you for the time. Jeremiah chapter 3, verse 9 says this. And it came to pass, through the likeness of her whoredom, that she defiled the land and committed adultery with stones and with stocks. So, brothers and sisters, Israel turned to those kind of things. That's why when the Israelite brothers, no disrespect intended, went and performed at the Apollo, they didn't rub that tree stump there for, quote, good luck. We call upon the God of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, the one who sees all and is not seen. We don't take the creation and place of the creator. There's nothing wrong with using a tree what it's used for. Breathe in, breathe out, and let it breathe in and breathe out. That is how we are intertwined, and for the lack of a better term, with the universe. We need it, it needs us. So, brothers and sisters, in closing that part out, and getting back, if we will, into the Apocrypha, Ecclesiasticus, thank you for the time, family. Ecclesiasticus chapter 6, if we will. Here is what we continue to read in verse 11. But in thy prosperity he will be as thyself, and will be bold over thy servants. If thou shalt be brought low, he will be against thee, and will hide himself from thy face. When you are in prosperity, you balling in today's terminology. Everybody can then be seen as your friend. Then, when you brought low, you ain't gonna ask me for anything. They hide their face. These are things we're talking about in character of, say, of a friend in that particular case. They don't sit there and stick it through thick and thin, brothers and sisters. When the time of calamity or the time of a problem come, they not only sit there and, no disrespect to what we've been talking about, run, they make sure they can't be found. You on your own in that particular case, brothers and sisters. And these are things, again, family, we want to point out for reference purposes. I ask again with the timing allotted. If I can be heard well and people are in good spirits, please type in the number 4. Thank you for that. Let's continue, family, in this case. Both these words are translated friend. Kabir. Yadid. But let's look, brothers and sisters. Kabir from kabar in Hebrew means to tie or to bind. Kabarti means I tied. Kabarti na'alai, I tied my shoes. Kabarti sa'are roshi, I tied, I made to bind the hairs of my head. Then we have the word yadid, from the word hadad, meaning to love. You might get the word Dawid in there, because Dawid means beloved. Brothers and sisters, when you hear people saying, hey, beloved, there was a book named Beloved. I think Toni Morrison wrote it. I could be wrong. That was Toni Morrison? Torah. Well, beloved in Hebrew, or beloved, depends how you want to pronounce it, in Hebrew is Dawid. That's what Dawid means. What is wrong with love? Let's take, for instance, the movie Paid in Full. Brothers and sisters, what did the guy, Mekhi Phifer, playing, may he rest in peace, Richard Porter, state? I can love out here in Harlem. As long as such and such is feeling it, I'm not going to say the N-word, can sell it. But the love that you were spreading later on, Brother Rich, is similar to what the Roots album was talking about. While you think you, quote, getting it, you are the wolf that is licking and tasting your own blood, not realizing you're destroying your own. So the love that you're getting it, brothers and sisters, is something we have to sit back and analyze. Is it Tob or good, or Ra or evil? Is it Zadik or righteous, or Resha or wicked? Me and my lady was speaking not too long ago. The person that's not a true friend is going to tell you, keep on selling that rock. Keep on doing what you're doing. That's not a good friend. A good friend will sit there and pull you to the side like, you shouldn't be doing that. Brothers and sisters, these are things we care to bring out for edification purposes. Let's go, if we will, back in the Apocrypha. Shalom, my brother Anthony. And let's get into this. Ecclesiasticus chapter 6. And we're going to be reading again in verse 11. But in thy prosperity he will be as thyself. Yeah, we good. Yeah, it is ours. Goes on to say. And will be bold over thy servants. Nah, I'm your mans. I'm your peoples, not them. They're going to be bold over those who are your family, over your servants, over your brothers, your sisters. They're going to be like, nah, it's about me and you. I'm your true friend, yo. They ain't. That kind of spirit. Let's continue in Ecclesiasticus chapter 6. It goes on to say, verse 12, if thou be brought low, he will be against thee, and will hide himself from thy face. Separate thyself from thine enemies and take heed to thy friends. So a true friend Loves at all times is what Proverbs in the Bible, chapter 17 says. A true friend loves at all times. They're not just going to love you when you're balling. They're not just going to love you when you can do, quote, do something for them. They're not just going to be that person that's your best friend on earth just because he or she can get something from you. They're going to be there when it's the thin and not the thick. They're going to be there for you when you are in a situation where it's like, I'm going to sit there and need some assistance. I don't talk politics all the time online, but let's look at this, brothers and sisters. Trump ain't got no friends. You, Trump, are selling Bibles online for $59.99. You, Trump, had over a $400 million lawsuit, dropped down to over $100 million lawsuit, and you still find yourself going to the bank here and going to that there. But you, Trump, baby, because those were not your friends. They were your acquaintances. You were not their friends. You was their acquaintance. And what we're seeing now, not that it's a new thing in the earth, and it's not because it's the Gregorian calendar 2024. Things are coming out and getting exposed. What did the Most High say about Esau and Obadiah? All the friends of your confederacy have conducted you to the border, Esau. When you sat there with friends with Babylon, going against Israel, even though Babylon ain't even asked you to go against Israel, and the Most High never told you to go against Israel. And because you went against Judah in the day of their calamity, Esau shall be destroyed to the last man. The Most High never sent Esau against his brother Jacob. The brotherly covenant you were supposed to keep when Judah fell, you were not supposed to sit there, but I'm going to take this out of Jerusalem, and I'm going to take this Torah, and I'm going to go where Japheth is. We're going to become Khazars and Jewish, and we're going to sit there and create Judaism. No one asked you to do all of that, brothers and sisters. Oh, Esau, you took the covenant of Israel, ran into a people called the Khazars, who were the third world in their day, gave them what you got from the Maccabees, to check out the history, from John Hyrcanus, the son of Simon Maccabee, who was also the nephew of Judah Maccabee, to get the line right. He taught you, Esau, about the ways of Israel. And when Rome came into power, during the time of the Maccabees and later on the Hasmoneans, you, Esau, took the stuff that you got from the Israelites and ran into Europe where Japheth was. So now, years later on, when you try to portray yourself as being Israel and you go through what you go through, what are you doing? Obadiah said you should have not put your hands on Jacob's substance. All the neighbors of your confederacy, O Esau, conducted you to the border. All the neighbors of your confederacy, Puffy, have conducted you to the border. All the neighbors of your confederacy have gotten you to the border. Candace Owens, talking all this stuff against brothers, talking all this stuff against sisters. And Ben Shapiro dropped you. Bye, Miss Owens. Didn't you learn from Omarosa? Black women, they're not your friend. They're friendly as long as you're doing what they bid you to do. And just like the Nakash and Eve, or the serpent and Eve, when the serpent is done, Eve, you're on your own to where your man can't even help you. Now you online talking about these are going to be better. Like Esau, we've been beaten down in Malachi, but we're going to come back and we're going to rebuild. And here's my podcast, and you can donate. You a millionaire donating? I thought you was up in there, hold on, with Ben Shapiro and the rest of them. You ran your mouth about the Palestinians and this and that, and then they got tired of you. Come on now. Learn from people like Omarosa. Don't sit there and make confederacies with them. And Omarosa didn't sit there and speak against our people like you did. So you see what happens. Because a true friend, and let's talk about it. I'm not a psychologist or a psychiatrist, is not going to ever allow you, even if the other party don't know, talk against them. I'm not Islamic. I'm not Muslim. One thing I heard that I don't know if it's Orthodox Islam or the Nation of Islam or whatever, but I heard something they do is this. Yo, this brother, this sister, stop right there, brother. Excuse me, come here because somebody got something you got to say about you. Now, let's come to the meaning of the minds. Continue as you were, brother. What you were saying? See, when you are a peace seeker, that's what you do. Torah teaches us that long before Muhammad came with Islam, by saying you shall surely rebuke your neighbor and not be a sin on account of him. You shall rebuke your neighbor and not be a sin on account. Don't hate thy brother in thy heart. Let that out. Let that phlegm out. Drink the bitter herbs and let those worms out. Let that phlegm out. Let it out, because then you'll feel lighter. Your spirit will be lighter. You may physically feel like, now I'm energetic. You can't sit there and run the block with something on your conscience. That's what Isaiah 58 talks about. You fast for quarrel, for strife. That's not spiritually righteously inclined. Don't you see I'm not eating? Don't you see I give up food? The most I see, we give up food every time we go to sleep. So that's not impressionable. If he didn't want you to eat, there will be no food. So you giving up food is not the impression that we want to make. What we want to make is get our voices heard on high. And the way to do that is by being a true friend. Like the Most High said, how all of this, what I'm saying in the spirit of Yah, ties in. David is a man after my own heart. Let's look at the character of Dawid. There was a man who had a lot of sheep, and there was another guy, he had one sheep. And this guy with this many sheep took this one man's ram, his ewe lamb, you know? His response was, as Yah liveth, that man shall die. Dawid, you are the man. Who me? Yeah, you. Dawid didn't say, yo, I gave the note to Joab. Just stop pointing the finger. Stop saying Joab. Dawid said, Katati, I sinned. Not Katanu, I need Wagam et Joab. Me and Joab. No. Hold that. Take the L. This is a man after my own heart. Not, well, Uriah wasn't home. What? And some Israelites talking about Uriah was a Hittite. So therefore, separate from thine enemies. Because any man that's up there reading the scriptures and saying, well, Uriah Bathsheba and Uriah was a Hittite, so it is what it is, will be the same man that will sit there and sleep with a Hamite man's wife. So if her husband is not of the house of Israel, that does not give you the right to sit there and sleep with his wife. Lo tin af, period. Thou shalt not commit adultery. Why do you think Joseph ran away from Potiphar's wife? You think Potiphar's wife was all in Joseph's face if Potiphar was around? Joseph was brought down in Genesis 41 to or Genesis 42, one of the chapters, to Potiphar's house. Joseph already knew he being kidnapped and sold, because that's really what happened, at age 17. That means that he heard the wisdom from Isaac and from Jacob. You don't deal with a woman who is married. Potiphar's wife was not an Israelite, because the only Israelite woman was the daughter Asher and Dinah. Unless they had other daughters that we don't read about. But Potiphar's wife was not Israel, and her Ish was a Hamite. But that has nothing to do with what you know to do what is right. Did you eat of the tree that I told you not to eat from? The woman you gave me, you ain't trying to take no responsibility or accountability. Did you eat of the tree that I told you not to eat? The serpent beguiled me. Okay, you're not trying to take no accountability. That's the difference in character that we want to point out, brothers and sisters. And a true friend is going to sit there and take that responsibility. Joseph later on, to show how the scriptures is life, and we can bring it all into this matter, if we will, family, right? For edification purposes, if we will. Whoever stole the thing is going to be my slave. Every man put their bag down. They all know they didn't steal it, so I ain't got nothing to hide. Open them up. Benjamin is the one with it. Oh, boy. By this time, Benjamin is already a grown man. He will be my slave. Because see, that's because you can't, and I'm not trying to be funny. In general, if you're going to buy bread with grain, if you're keeping money in sacks, you can't afford a golden goblet cup kind of thing of pure gold. If you are at a point of buying bread with grain in a time of famine, no disrespect to the house of Israel, in Genesis, you were not balling. And money don't feed you, food feeds you. So you had to make exchange. So in those times, like David and Goliath, whoever win the war will become the slave master, or whoever stole something will become the slave. So give me him. That's my slave now. Judah took the responsibility. Like, no, he can't be a slave. Let me be a slave. Now, mind you, not saying that I know Joseph's mindset. If you do subscribe to the book of Joshua, the two individuals that did the selling of Joseph himself, the actual transaction, was Judah and Gad. Judah and Gad, of all the other brothers, was the ones that actually held Joseph and did the actual currency exchange. And here he is years later saying, I'll be in place of him. See, this is why we got to be careful as men and women. You don't marry two sisters or marry two women who are sisters, because you already got a problem with that. That's going to bring in contention. We see that. Our mommy is gone. I see your mommy bowing down to me in a dream. Our father's not feeling that. You're not feeling that. This is contentious. And now you're telling me that you're going to be my slave instead of the person who obviously is the thief, because you can see it inside the bag there. If we bring him back to the old man, he'll live. If we go back and this old man see that he ain't with us, because his brother is not. Come on, Judah, keep lying to me. Keep telling me I'm not. Because as far as y'all's concerned, I'm dead. Because see, that's why I love languages. He's speaking Metroneta or Egyptian. They speaking Canaani as well as Chaldean, aka Hebrew, because another thing with Hebrew bred from that the children of Israel spoke, but that's a whole other subject with linguistics. So they're speaking one Shemitic language, one Hamitic language. I want to sit there and keep on telling me that I'm dead. Right. I already told you you're a spy. I already had you locked up. I left your brother, Simeon, locked up in there, because according to Joshua, it was really Simeon that was pounding him out and giving them those knuckles when they did beat him up. That Shimon really was the one that was like, I'm going to really duff this dude out, for the lack of a better term. So it might serve the reason why when the other brothers went back, Simeon leave him there. That's what Joshua at least states, for those who do subscribe to that. So getting back into it now, you're going to take responsibility for this guy. And that's when Judah, not knowing who you're talking to, which leads us to another thing about what we just read in Ecclesiasticus chapter 6, verse 5. Sweet language will multiply friends, and a fair-speaking tongue will increase kind greetings. Be careful the words you choose. It can help. I've known of children who got no spanking from their parents after doing wrong because of the words you spoke. I've known of people, not to get too personal, who sat there, and I really don't want to get too personal, all right? They had a bug inside of a place, and you know who they are who do bugging, right? And when they were being investigated, they spoke so well on the bug to where the judge told the people who doing the bugging, we know what those people are. These people are not criminals. You got to sit there and get rid of that bug. The investigation squashed, all because of the kind words that you did speak. The judge made the people who do bugging. We know who they are, starting with the letter F, ending with the letter I. You understand? The judge was like, you can't keep on bugging these people's place. They're not what you said they are. And that's what my point is. It returns good greetings. It said Joseph could not withhold himself, and he had to sit there and just state, Ani Yosef, how old Kai I be? Is my father yet alive? And what happened? None of the brothers can sit there and give him a word. Because, see, now your lie's exposed. So when I told you were spies, I knew who you were. This one here with the whole thing, I know he didn't steal it. The show's over. You don't have to keep on lying to me about, oh, his brother is not. We are upright men, and one of the brothers is not. You ain't got to keep on telling me that story no more. I'm going to tell you what the truth is now. This is everything that I've been doing. Now, what's been happening over there? Wow. Well, go back and tell Alba that I'm great here, and I'm gonna take care of your family. And what else, brothers and sisters, was stated, if we will, right? If we can, for edification purposes, we're going to stop this generational curse. Any problems that we got in our generation, we're going to let that stuff die with us. So black people, brothers, sisters, elders included, our ancestors, not necessarily those who are deceased, we cannot continue the same problems that we have been born into. We can't sit there and allow that to fester to another generation. You understand? So without any further ado, let us continue in this particular matter and in this particular presentation, if we will, brothers and sisters. Thanking you all for the time in this particular matter. All right? So we see Yadid as well as Kabir both means friend. But one comes from the root word meaning love, and the other one comes from the root word meaning tie. Because when you tie together and you loving like that, that's a friend. You understand? And Jacob told Joseph, forgive your brothers for what they did. And true forgiveness means that you don't mention it again. And true repentance means you don't do the thing that you got to be forgiven for. See, it goes hand in hand. True forgiveness means you don't bring it back up again. And true repentance of what you was forgiven for means you don't do the thing that you got to be forgiven for. All right, so I just want to point that out. Ecclesiasticus chapter 6, we're going to continue in this. Separate thyself from thine enemies and take heed of thy friends. A faithful friend is a strong defense. And he that hath found such, and one hath found a treasure. This is not only in cases of money from the pocket or wallet or card or account. This right here, a faithful friend is a strong defense. So brothers and sisters, you don't sit there and been shown respect and love from friends. And because they are now in a situation where they are down and out, or they're going on thin and not thick, as the saying goes, you don't allow anybody to sit there and disrespect. You had nowhere to go. Somebody opened the door for you, allowed you to get rank and clout and respect and honor, and was a friend for you. You brought no light to them, but you're okay saying that it was dark and dreary. No, you don't ever do that. When they took you in when you did not have. That's why I said a true friend does not forget. No, no, no. And if you around that, you rebuke that like, no. They don't ever have to know what was stated, but those are my friends and my father's and mother's friends. Like Dawid did with the king of Amnon. And you know Ammon and Israel ain't not get along. But that's my friend. You don't sit there and turn in old friends for new friends. You don't sit there and kick somebody when they're down, brothers and sisters. You see somebody or anyone going through something that's not the best, but they never disrespected you. And if they did disrespect you, they took atonement for it. It was accepted and forgiven. You need to sit there and remember that, just like we want the Most High to remember not our sins, as we used to say in prayers. Cast our sins to the bottomless pit to remain there forevermore. Our hope is in thee, O Yah, and without thy mercy we have naught. Father of mercy, thou dispenser of knowledge, cause our hearts to return and our minds to retain thy law. Bless us as you did in the days of yore, meaning the days before, and let the sign of the shine, and let the sign of the shine, let the sign of the shine shine brightly from this thy house and from us thy people Israel. I remember we did those prayers when I was 13, 14, 15 years old. So brothers and sisters, you don't ever be in a situation where you didn't shed light to somebody, but you sitting up there talking about they dark. That's not Yadid. That's not Kabir. That's not what we want to emulate, brothers and sisters. Brothers and sisters, there's a place that caught on fire in Israel. And when I say Israel, I'm talking about an Israelite community. Back, say, 6-7 years or so ago. That place was called Beni Adat, for those who do know. The city intends on demolishing the place. I don't know all the politics and everything about it, but it's not been kept in its best form. In that place is where I got my first public reading in Hebrew. When you hear me speak of my Hebrew teachers, Adon Aharon, Ben Zebulun, may he rest in peace. He's the one who sat there and was saying, when I had my old Hebrew name, Emiel, read this carefully, read it again, and read it again. He walked with a ruler. He never popped us with it. But I remember him walking with the ruler, or the stick, should I say, and said, read this right here. And I would read it, and he would sit there and wait toward the end and says, you can do better. So that gave me that encouragement before I wrote any Hebrew book what that's about. That place there, I'm going to take the liberty to say, is where my mother, though her marriage did not last, that's where she had her wedding at. So certain things, brothers and sisters, is sentimental to certain people. And sometimes some people don't forget the good that was shown. When my mother was sick and me and my sister was being given rides back and forth from people in that congregation. See, I didn't have to say that, but that's the truth. When my mother, may she rest in peace now, when she was 41 years old at that time, and was brought out the hospital 2 days before Yom Kippur and had enough strength to sit. For those who know the congregation, the woman's part was real hot because it was up on the balcony. And my mother had the strength 2 days after coming out of, I think it was Queens General or Queens something like that hospital. And the rabbi's son, who now runs a congregation in the South, I'm not going to mention his name out of respect, whom I didn't subscribe to, he says, thank you, Yah, for bringing Gever Nifla from the deathbed. You don't forget when people do that for you before the Most High God when you're a child. You don't ever forget when people are taken out of their wife and their children's time to bring your mother's children, you and your sister, home first. And then going back and picking up their own. I'm going to go and drop off Gever Nifla's children and I'll be back for y'all. Because me and my sister sometimes used to go to the camp or the temple there by herself when mommy was too sick to go and she was in the hospital. Those things you don't forget, and don't ever sit there and let anybody disrespect. In that particular case, you don't turn your back on that, especially when you got there having not a spot to go to, brothers and sisters saying they're dark, but you didn't bring them no light. If they're dark, you should have brought them the light, brothers and sisters. So you rebuke that energy like, oh, no. See, when I put, for those who are knowing about on Facebook, and I said, you don't ever sit there and announce, these are some of the things that I experienced as a child growing up in Israel. Everything wasn't bad or dramatic or problematic. There were people who were married when my mommy was not married, bringing my mommy's from my single mommy's children home from Brooklyn to the Bronx before they will sit there and bring their own or with their own to another. And all of us and the children are happy because we all get to sit there and spend more time together. Where's the gas money? You're going from, for those who do know the area, Kosciuszko area in Brooklyn, Bed-Stuy by the J train, by Gates and Marcy and Halsey area on the J train by Broadway, right smack dead between Bed-Stuy and Bushwick, for those who know Brooklyn, all the way to the Bronx. You crossing bridges. So, brothers and sisters, to the people who helped me out from that congregation, Benaiah Dot, I definitely am respectful of it. I spoke recently to my mother's friend who came to my mother's funeral. And I wanted to state that as my books are online, Gaberit, you're the one, when I had no computer, that allowed me to use it. You allowed me to sit in your house, go in your fridge, use your bathroom when we had no computer. You allowed me to sit in your chair from, say, 11. Sometimes you wanted me there at 12. I remember very well. And I'll be typing and typing and typing and typing and typing. Now you see there's 12 books out, told out to the Most High. And I'll be typing and typing and typing on floppy disks, for those who know way back when, before you had external hard drives, because we couldn't afford it if it did exist. Not on laptops, straight desktop with floppy disk, for those who don't know back in those days. Yuga Barrett, who was my mother's friend, allowed me to do that. So I spoke to her son and got his mom's email number and told her, I owe you a debt of gratitude. Because when I had no computer and wanted to talk about, I want to write a book when I am 13, 14, all the way to 17 years old. Then I did get a word processor, so I was able to do it at home with the floppy disk thing. Thankful for that. But before the word processor came in, the brother word processor, for those who do know those kind of electronics, Gaberit, you was the one that sat there and allowed me to sit in your house, go in your fridge, giving you nothing for your electric bill, and using your bathroom, as long as I was respectful enough to leave before 9 p.m. and come back the next day. And come back the next day. The rules were, don't come before 11, and you out of here by 9. Beside that, you can do anything under the Torah. But you leaving before 9. And so I'm going to have to sit there because I got to go to bed. So you got to respect when people look out for you. You don't ever turn your back on that. When my mother was married, I'm going to take the liberty to say it, and having problems in her marriage, she cried out to her sisters, her being one of them. You don't sit there and turn your back on that. And you don't allow nobody to ever shame or slander anyone who does such. You rebuke that energy like, no, we're not doing that. If you couldn't see the light and you thought the place was dark and dreary, that means you ain't see what I saw. I'm sorry you didn't. Next slide. Wisdom. A brother offended is harder to be won than a strong city. And their contentions are like the bars of a castle. So when you offend somebody, don't sit there and act like their feelings don't matter. Don't sit there, because this is Solomon. This is Proverbs chapter 18. Talking to who? Wisdom calls to who? The sons of man. I'm speaking to you, boy. I'm speaking to you, girl. See, we ain't got to call out to ancestors. The ancestors in writings are calling out to us. So don't sit there and say, well, this shouldn't offend you. You know who does that? White people who tell us to get over slavery. And not all white people doing that, don't get me wrong. Because a lot of books on slavery is written by white people, so I don't want to sit there and castigate a whole group or race of people. But we say, oh, get over it. Your feelings don't matter. So what everyone else got what they call reparations but the Negroes? A brother offended is harder to be won than a strong city. So if you don't have the mindset of an oppressor, don't sit there and tell your lady, don't sit there and tell the man in your life, well, it shouldn't matter. Those things shouldn't bother you. You don't have dominion and control of what bothers somebody. That's his or her own spirit. And if you can sit there and see, like it says, test a friend, okay, that's offensive. I can't go there with you. That was a bit too far. Case in point with Guevara. I couldn't stay after 9 o'clock because I didn't want to stay to 9:15 and be like, you know what, you can't come in no more. I don't want to blow that chance. I don't want to offend and be like, cut off point, I'm done now. And you don't want to do it with a significant other. You don't want to do it with your children. You don't want to do it with your parents. You don't want to do it with your friends. A brother offended is harder to be won than a strong city. And their contentions are like the bars of a castle. So they build maybe a wall around their heart. Like, no, you offended, no. If you have that patience, work with it if you are genuine in it. Proverbs 18:21, death and life are in the power of the tongue, and they that love it shall eat the fruit thereof. Whoso loveth life loveth me, but all who misses me wrongs their own soul. All they who hate me love death, is what Proverbs says in Proverbs 8. So life and death is in the power of the tongue. I'm not trying to be disrespectful or anything of that sort. And I am in no way, shape, form, and fashion saying the police are 100% right. I thank the Most High God for a situation that happened and how it ended. Me and another person was in the car. And no knock on the Bronx, I was born in the Bronx. Well, we were driving in a very, for the lack of a better term, not low-priced car. A nice Jeep. A lot of people will like a Jeep. This kind of Jeep, a lot of people will like. So we're there, and he's driving. All of a sudden, we see 2 cars come out of nowhere, shoop, shoop, and blocked us off. Plain cars. And out came these people with guns saying, hey, stop right there, stop right there. And we're looking like, what in the world? Get out the car. I'm like 19 at the time. The other person, he's older than me. That's all I'm going to say. So I get out the car. The other person gets out the car. The driver of the car is being spoken to by one cop. I'm being on the back of the Jeep being spoken to by another cop. So I got my hands on the thing. I'm being patted down. You got any weapons? You got any drugs? You got anything? I have nothing illegal, officer. There's nothing on me that's bad. Those are the kind of words I'm saying. I don't have no weapons. They do. This side of the law fights for them. I know Yah Elohim. He sits there and keeps patting me down, and this is real life, no made up. I'm going to say it's in the Bronx as you go by, I want to say 3rd Avenue area. For those who know the Bronx, you know where we're going. That is the hood. I guess that's why they were plain car and plain clothes. What is this on your shirt? I said, what's this on your shirt? Those are my fringes, officer, part of my faith. He turns me around. I'm 19, mind you. I'm not the biggest brother. I'm not the smallest brother. Says, what do you mean that's part of your faith? By now, his gun is away. The other cop, he's talking to the other person over in the front. I can't hear them. Well, it's part of my faith, what I study, what I'm into. What do you study? You in school? And at that point in my life, I was not in high school. I was like working and I had not gone to college yet. So I was on it like, well, I'm not really in school right now. I'm working right now and so forth. So what are you studying then? You said this is part of your faith and what you study. I said, well, I study history and I'm into this kind of thing based upon what my belief is. Don't you know, glory to the Most High, we ended up talking about ancient Assyria. Maybe I don't know why I like Syria talking about it so much. I was like, Tiglath-Pileser, Sennacherib, Sargon, these people you see in there, those kind of things. The look on his face was like, yo, I wasted my time, man. These dudes ain't got nothing on them. This ain't a collar. If I wanted to make paperwork, these guys are not going to give me my quota if that's what they're looking for. So he goes back in the car, and the driver now tells me, "Oh, I'm sorry what you went through." And I had to sit there and state while we in the Bronx, like, bro, I'm from Brooklyn, baby. I've been in this before. I've been stopped and searched at 15 in Brooklyn on Herkimer in Bed-Stuy off the J train area at 15. This ain't the first time I've been stopped and searched. I appreciate you had the humility while I'm in your circumference to apologize to me, but it ain't your fault. So just want to state, death and life are in the power of the tongue, and they that love it shall eat the fruit thereof. The Most High will make your enemies your footstool, like we read. But if you on there not acting like Dawid, not using the wisdom, say like Harriet Tubman, why do I compare that? Dawid at one time, when he's outnumbered by his enemies, made himself acting like he had a bipolar schizophrenic mentality by spitting on himself. It's like, that's not the king of Israel. The king of Israel would not be acting like he's literally insane. Whoever the king of Israel is, this ain't him. Dawid was portraying and giving an image as if he was mentally disturbed or had a mental illness, if you will. That's intelligent. Harriet Tubman sat there and acted like she was just around her own urine, for those who do know the history, as they, quote, look for the female Moses. They said, that woman did, no, that ain't her, because she would have been leading people. That woman right there is not Miss Tubman. We got to keep on looking. So I'm saying that to say that death and life were in the power of the tongue. Dawid's life would have been taken by his enemies had he not used that wisdom. They already had a $40,000, not to talk business today, $40,000 bounty on Harriet Tubman's head, dead or alive, in the 1850s. That is over X amount of millions today. They wanted her dead or alive. Use your wisdom, Israel. That's what we want to point out. Make them sit there and look like, man, it's not wasting my time. You understand? A bad mood is never an excuse to use cruel words. Never. Moods pass, but cruel words wound the soul. Be cognizant of that. Be wise. Having a bad mood, I'm upset, something else, whatever it is, it's always that, is not an excuse to use cruel words. Do you know in Israel, like culture in Exodus, you know, for the lack of a better term, if you get someone a beat down, you know, Exodus says you're supposed to cause him to be thoroughly healed. If that man or that woman, and I'm not condoning hitting anyone, if you sit there in the Israelite culture in Exodus and you beat up a man or a woman, you know you got to pay for that person to be thoroughly healed and pay their bills too, and shall take care of their family. What is that telling us in Exodus? It's a deterrent from us having quarrelsome rivalry and foolishness. You ain't got no time to be fighting each other. But if you do, you're supposed to make restitution. If the person upsets you, know before you strike what the consequence of losing your temper is. It's better to be the brother offended than the brother who was offended and now you got to pay because you was offended and didn't have rulership of your own spirit. I spoke about this on the channel Shomrei Habrit on Yom Kippur that passed before this recent one. And I spoke about a situation in which, in using wisdom, somebody that was in school and we was all in school and he was like one of the tough guys, if you will, right? I accidentally hit him. I did not mean to hit this brother, whose name I will not mention. And the way I hit him went right in his eye. Boom. And his words was, I'm going to such and such you up. I knew his English name. He knew my English name. The whole time in class, and I'm not going to sound like a coward, I called out to Elohim in prayer. I didn't want such and such brother, not to mention his name, come with his boys from another floor in the school and try to attack a brother. So what ended up happening was when the class ended, And his boys was already outside waiting for me. They were. His boys heard about it. They went from one floor of the school to the next to wait for me. Now, by the time that period ended, for those who know how junior high bib, and then you go to fourth period, fifth period, that kind of thing like that. By the time I get out the class, he's there. His boys is gone. And I said, that's my bad. I didn't mean to do that. And it was my bad. I did not mean to do it. And I explained to him to give him the respect. What I was doing. Why was I careless in having I struck the man, the brother, if you will, because we're the same age practically. And he was like, oh, okay, that's cool. You know, don't let it happen again. Now I can sit there and be a fool and say, "Don't what? You telling me that? Hold on. The Most High heard your prayer in that classroom." The next time I saw that brother, I saw nothing but I'm not trying to castigate black men. I saw nothing but gold teeth, a chain, and a Ferrari. And you're still in South Jamaica by the hood. And you're still by Rochdale. I don't care if it's a Metchalama in the hood. You're still by Guy Brewer and 122. You're where 50 Cent the rapper talks about. And that situation happened in the school when I was about 13, 14. When I seen that brother again with all the gold teeth and the chain and the Ferrari, and he stepped out, he remembered me like, oh, what's up? We had like 21 at this point. I'm there like, now I know how you was then. I'm not saying you continued and got worse. And I'm not going to fix my mouth to ask it. Because why? A brother offended is harder to be won. So if that man sat there and had a life insurance and was able to get that, if that man had those spinning rims because his grandparents left him something, but you're already thinking he's the same way in junior high school as then, you're going to offend him. Use your wisdom. This is why time to speak, time not to speak. Let it go. Navigate with wisdom. As my brother Yirmiyahu pointed out, let's continue, brothers and sisters. Brother speaking, Elohim speaking. Don't forget about me when you make it. The other says, don't forget to support me before I make it. Now, let's see what Elohim says. But thou, Israel, art my servant, Jacob, whom I have chosen, the seed of Abraham, my friend. Now, you know this friend here that we see here in the Hebrew in Isaiah does not say Yadid or Kabir. The Hebrew root word for friend there is the same word I used in the thumbnail, Ahaba, love. The seed of Abraham, Ohabi, my friend, my lover, the one whom I love. Love and friends are united, and they don't make you a coward. I pointed out earlier, the person, Mekhi Phifer, playing rich, in order for him to do his wickedness as hard as he went, he had to love it. But that's not the kind of love. That's an inordinate love. That's not a good thing. That's a bad one. All right? Remember these things, Jacob, for you, Israel, are my servant. I have made you. You are my servant, Israel. I will not forget you. So as we see, as men saying in the meme there, don't forget about me when you make it. The other saying, don't forget to support me before I make it. See, and this is not saying that we should not be like that as brothers, sisters, one another with the people. But what is the one whose thoughts and words is higher than ours? The Most High saying, I will not forget you. As humans, we got to say, hey, don't forget me when you make it. Hey, don't forget to support me before I make it. The Most High is coming with a higher energy, for the lack of a better term. I will not forget you, O Yisrael. So brothers and sisters, no. I'm not calling myself a Jew in place of Israel. Because in the scriptures, Jews were not given a promise. Israel was. So to be told, oh, say you a Jew at a certain place, no. If I want to use my English name, I can do that legally. I don't have to sit there and say I'm not Israel and sit there and claim something else. Most of us have either, depending upon where we're from, if you from Panama, you may have a Spanish name. If you're from Haiti, you may have a Creole or a French name. If you have from the West Indies, you might have two first names because that's what they used to do in the West Indies in slavery, so you won't sit there and trace back in slavery roots. You have a name like Sean Nelson. So you can never trace back to what plantation. See, in North America, like the states, as it's called, from those in the West Indies, calling it the states, you can kind of trace by last name a little easier somewhat. But the situation, not to get sidebar from what we're talking about, Jamaica, correct me if I'm wrong, being the size of New Jersey, it's kind of hard to separate the family that much like you could do in North America, the states, as it's called. Put one in Alabama and the other one all the way in Louisiana. It's easier to sit there and separate. So you might see more unity coming from certain places, and it's not tribalism. It's the fact that we need to be each other's resources and sit there and utilize each other, brothers and sisters. I learned a lot when I was in that community in Chester, in South Carolina. You know who my teacher was? I'm not going to mention the young man's name, but he was 9, 10 years old when I was there learning about animals. I knew nothing about animals outside of going to Seatown and picking the stuff up and making sure to bring what they call crystallized or kosher salt so mommy can get all the salt out the chicken or the salt out the lamb or the blood, that is say, out of that. You understand? Brothers and sisters, be cognizant of each other and how we as brothers move with each other, how we move, brothers and sisters. I've seen it in the understanding of Israel and out. The Apocrypha is here for a reason. Be not a lion in your house, for such a man shall inherit the wind. You don't have to sit there, brothers and sisters, and as I'm learning, as I grow in my union, brothers and sisters, having the last word is not always necessary. And what we may feel as men as acquiescent doesn't mean you lost. You just want the peace. It doesn't mean, brother, she won. It don't mean you a simp. Because if she thought you was a simp, she probably, if she's a woman of caliber, wouldn't be with you because she could say, I could just walk all over him. So the fact that you have a lady, for brothers who doesn't want a simp, and able to sit there and stand distant and mentally sit there and see where her Isha, where the brother in her life is at, mentally, if you will. And you can be complimented on that, you're ready. I'm not a relationship expert, at least 40 or 50% already good in it, and so forth and so on. How you move. Women have been saying in Israel for quite a while. I was raised in this since a child, not about me though. Do we have a voice? I remember that inside of meetings, nation meetings or camp meetings, if you will. Not to mention the camp or the ladies in general. Do we have a voice? I'm going to say, while I was a child then, yes, you do. Because I remember Gerer Shalomi. I remember Gerer Kimdiel. I remember Gerer Kavodia. I remember Gerer Zimra. I remember Ima Batsheba. So yeah, you may not even know what I'm talking about online, but y'all knows them by spirit and by nature, whether they're deceased or not. So yes, you have a voice because you impress the next generation. You may not have a voice in a grown married man's face, in your sister's husband's face, but you definitely, women of Israel, got a voice with the children. And this is something we want to point out for reference purposes. Information, Shalom, and presentation on the matter of history, May 7th. The link is in the description. We can be reached at 908-587-4841, the website, Danitepublications.com. Now, Tuesday, May 7th, 2024, you can sit there and see the platform is called Walking His Ways. There's going to be a presentation on history. Just want to drop that. The link of it is inside of the description in this particular case. All right. So, brothers and sisters, just want to point that out for reference purposes. We're going to close out in prayer, brothers and sisters, and giving honor to the Most High, the one who sees all and is not seen. Hallelujah. Malkenu, our King. Zurenu, our Rock. Goalenu, our Redeemer. Moshienu, our Savior. Malkenu, our King. Abinu, our Father. Shemana lekrolenu. Bavakusha, will you please hear to our voice? Elohinu, Elohe Abotenu. our God and the God of our fathers, qua bel na et Shabbatnu, accept our rest, qua dish kulanu, bagam king bekumuleka, satisfy us, sanctify us with thy mercies. Ki atahu, for you are he. Wa ain't shawin laka, for there is none like you, but shemaim or ba'aretz, in the heavens or in the earth. Titain lanu, lay basar, give us a heart of flesh. Wagam king lo, lab eben, and not a heart of stone. Eloheinu, welohe abotenu, our God and God of our fathers. Titain lanu hatzlaka, give us prosperity and success. Titain lanu bebakwasha, one El tefillotenu, an answer to our prayers. Kiata ha'el hashomea tefillotenu, for you are the God who hear our prayers. Wata'ane otan babakwasha, barakameka, and answer them in thy mercies. Shemana, wegam kain al natitain lanu, iwer o keresh. Give not us, O Yah, blindness. Give not us, O Yah, deafness. Turn not a deaf ear to us, O Yah, for we need you. For there is none like you in the heaven above or on the earth beneath. We call not to idols. We do not sit there and call upon the dead. We do not sit there, O Holy One of Israel, sit there and even swear in the name of our children. We swear to you, and we ask you, O Yah, to be with us, those who know you, those who know you not. Hallelujah.
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 Amen. Amen. Brothers and sisters, in closing out, I would like to sit there and extend it to those who have sat there and supported the channel. It's appreciated. Asking you all to comment, like, share, and subscribe. We ask you all to sit there and stay tuned. We intend to do another presentation come next Shabbat, come next week. And if there is any that may come in between, as far as doing a presentation, I say in between, I'll send a link out. And again, thank you for those who have participated, supported, and encouraged. And when I say encouraged, I'm going to name it on a human level. I did it before, and I want to do it again. Because a true friend is not always easy to find, brothers and sisters. Much respect to my lady Sarai, who's been with me through thick and thin. Much respect to the brother Yirmiyahu, who I shouted out both my lady and my brother and friend online before. One who texted me and one who spoke to me verbally, eye to eye, and on the phone. You're dealing with this, that, and the third in your life. Do better, be better. Keep on teaching. Keep doing what you're doing. Before I met my lady Sarai, and before I had contact with the brother Yirmiyahu, who's a moderator on the platform, an elder who's now deceased, Chief of Chiefs, Chief Naftali, told me something like that when I was in my 20s. He sat there, or stood there, I must say, and he said to me, you take what God has given you, and you do what you do. I was 21 at the time. May he rest in peace. My first Israelite teacher, as I close out, Mora Yosef. He told me something when I was 10 years old. May he rest in peace now. And Mora Yosef, from when I met him, when I remember being 4 and 5 years old, to the timing of his death, is one of those, and he didn't like the word black, so I'm going to say a man of color, because he come from the 20s. He said, if you call somebody black in the 30s and 40s, you was catching those fists. Like, that was an insult back then. I didn't know that till he told me. You know, black became popular with, I'm black and I'm proud. Before that, you best not use that term one another. But getting back to the point, brothers and sisters, is this. He stated when I asked him about something, my first moray, that he knew he didn't go over with me in history. He looked at me, confirmed what I studied, and told me, keep studying. That's a true moray. That's not a person who said, well, if I didn't teach you that, don't worry about it. He didn't come like that. He didn't try to stifle me to just his understandings on matters and his understandings and teachings. He wasn't that kind of spirit. And that's why we remember people such as that. But brothers and sisters, be a true friend, a faithful one. And don't ever let anyone castigate, slander, or disrespect your true friends. Defend them, brothers and sisters. Rebuke that spirit and defend your friends. Enjoy your day of rest, Kol Yisrael, meaning all Israel. One nation, one love under Yah. Most High bless you and keep you. Shalom to my lady Sarah. Shalom to everybody in the chat. Subscribe to the channel, comment, like, and share. Shalom.